Nerdrotic.com.
Have my mic on. That's always good to have. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another review of Star Trek Picard, Season 1, Episode 6, The Impossible Mystery Box. And I am Gary Beekler. I come to you from Nerdrotic.com, and I am live in San Francisco. A little business before we get started. If you like what I do here, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking and sharing the videos. That is the only way a little independent content creator like yours truly can stay competitive against the giant corporations like CBS. And if you've come across this video, please make sure you are still subscribed. That being said, not a lot happened in this episode. The only thing that broke the boredom was the horrific dialogue. That continues. I have to think about that. Yes, there were some murders. I wasn't keeping count, but I want to say we're up to at least 33 or 34. You might want to consult Bird of Prey 5. He's keeping a tally. I'm keeping a tally in my review, but I can't remember it right now. So it's somewhere around the neighborhood of 30 to 33. So Murder Trek does continue, and thank God for Romulan and his sword. The one thing that I did notice about this episode is Picard wasn't in it very much. And I guess that's why Sir Patrick Stewart wanted to take this role. He sits down, he yells a couple times. He gets chastised a little bit, but they did dial back the chastising of Picard. Of course, they had to do it every episode, but this one was kind of a joke, and we'll get to that. Again, I will be spoiling the episode. So sorry. I don't know how many of you are actually watching it at this point. There is rumors out there that the audience has just fallen off a cliff for this show, and I can completely understand that because it's not Star Trek. It's made by people who don't like Star Trek for people who don't like Star Trek. And there was a moment, and there was a moment in this, and we'll get to that, that really that if you watch this episode, it makes you feel how much you miss it, because there is a moment of Star Trek in this for like 3 seconds, and it kind of hurt inside. You're like, oh, what could have been? What could have been? And we'll get going on that. And thank you all for joining me. I apologize. I'm late. If you're watching this live, my internet went down right before I started, so I had to reset everything and get it going. CBS can't stop me. They can't stop me. And I thank you again for all staying up late. Unless you're in Australia, then this is probably the middle of the day for you, and it's no problem whatsoever. So this episode was called The Impossible Box. It starts out with a dream. It's a dream. Little Soji is walking down a hallway. It's a scary thunderstorm. It's supposed to be a scary scene, but it's not. She walks in on Bruce Maddox, or what we think is Bruce Maddox, working on something, but we don't know what it is. It couldn't possibly be her, could it? We're going to get through. One of the biggest problems with this show is the audience knows everything and the characters don't. And other people have brought this up, and rightly so. So now we have two characters, and we're kind of following their journey to discover everything we know already. I don't find that exciting storytelling. So Picard was searching for Bruce Maddox. He was searching for Soji. We know where she was the whole time. We spent 5 episodes searching for Bruce Maddox, and they killed him. They just killed him, and they got a different actor to play him. And of course, poor Icheb. R.I.P. Icheb, at least fake Icheb. That wasn't the one who was actually playing him. I do believe Anti-Trekker is interviewing him on his channel. You might want to check that out after you check me out. And we will see. Okay, so they start out with a dream. There's no Picard in this scene. She walks in on what we think is Bruce Maddox, and she screams and wakes up. She wakes up next to Narek. One of the most forced romances I've ever seen in television. I don't believe it for 1 second. And that's one of the biggest problems with this show. I mean, there's so many, but everything is forced. Nothing feels organic. None of the relationships feel organic. None of the characters do. It's just getting from point A to point B to give you a shock or a surprise that you're not going to be shocked about. You can see this stuff telegraphed a mile away. And I can tell you right now, I knew where this episode was going. It took us 54 minutes to get there, and it was excruciating. It was excruciating because it was mostly boring. Now, was this episode filled with like identity politics or a bunch of woman-splaining? No, actually it wasn't. It wasn't. It was just boring. And it really exposes what this show was, what it can be, because your lead is 80. Your lead is 80 years old, and there is a scene where Picard pulls out a necklace, and Sir Patrick Stewart's hand is shaking, and I felt bad for him. I'm like, why is he doing this? Why is he doing this? He doesn't need the cheddar. He doesn't need the cheddar. Well, we'll get to the why at the end of this. I'm going to get through this quickly because, like, nothing happens. All right. So, and I even wrote that the audience knows more than the characters. The characters are just catching up, and this is really boring. So the drummer from Scott Pilgrim is really broken up after killing Bruce Maddox over what? She knows some secret, and she is hopeless now and hollow, and nobody's suspicious at all. She just sits down and tells Picard that his heart gave out, due to all those injuries, and Picard just goes, okay. Doesn't notice that she's completely freaking out and looks as guilty as hell. But Picard's a moron. So, okay. He's a doddering old moron. And he's on his way back to the Borg cube, and he's having PTSD. No, not post-traumatic Star Trek Discovery syndrome. Post-traumatic stress syndrome. And he's having little flashbacks of the Borg. And there's a scene where he sits down and he researches the Borg because he needs to research them. Wasn't he hooked into the collective? Doesn't he know pretty much more than most people? Maybe this side of 7 of 9. But he has to research them. But the reason he researches them so they can get this shot. So he's looking through a clear screen, and he sits down, and he's looking at a picture of Locutus of Borg, and they line up his face perfectly, so it looks like he's Locutus of Borg, and he does this, and it goes into those awful credits, okay? And the credits are, of course, symbolism. We see a perfect blue sky. That's a piece of glass that breaks down. That sky is supposed to represent what old Star Trek was, and that little piece falling down is Picard and our hopes and dreams falling from the sky. That's what it is. Jeff Russo, who normally does very good music. I'm a backer of this guy. He's done great work in not Star Trek Discovery, but not here. And there's a really offensive Star Trek theme moment that we'll get to. So the drummer of Scott Pilgrim is acting all fidgety and nervous, and nobody notices a thing. And everybody is over Bruce Maddox's death, by the way. They have a little talk about it. They don't bring it up again. A guy just died on your ship. The guy you were looking for, and you don't bring him up again. But he's a white male, so they're pretty forgettable, aren't they? So we have, nobody's upset about that. Picard goes into his quarters, does his Borg thing. Then we have some forced dialogue between the drummer of Scott Pilgrim and Rios, and then they make out. Dialogue that it makes me feel like I've missed entire scenes of characterization. She says she feels hollow. Oh, by the way, Rios is playing soccer inside his spaceship. I'm sorry, football, because we're not being stereotypical at all. I'm surprised he wasn't working on a hot rod inside that thing. Maybe his family owns a garage at home, and his brother has some gang relations in East LA, but they don't do that stuff at all in Hollywood. They're never stereotypical. So I wonder if I wrote down some of this bad dialogue. I didn't, thank God. So the drummer for Scott Pilgrim walks up to Rios and says, "Why do you like it here in space? It's so cold and wants to kill you. Let's make out." And that's basically what happens. They make out, and then she says, "I have a superpower. I know when I'm making mistakes while I'm making them." And he goes, "That's a bad superpower." Then they make out some more. And I think they do it. I think they get it on. And I don't care. I simply don't care. So then we get to Narek and his sister, because I love these scenes. I love the forced Game of Thrones. She's always chastising him for not doing his job quick enough, and he's clearly doing his forced job perfectly well. And they have this Borg Rubik's Cube. I forgot what it was called. And they use it for symbolism as to what they're doing with Soji. And he's all, you have to be patient, sister. That was never your good thing. And he slowly opens the box. And that's foreshadowing, ladies and gentlemen. He opens his little Rubik's Cube slowly because he was patient and she was not. See, I wouldn't have gotten that if they hadn't have told me and showed me. By the way, we're like 20 minutes in the episode right now. Nothing's happened. They're still on their way. So finally, they have learned that it takes a while to get places. I got to credit them for that. Okay. So blah, blah, blah. Narek's sister, they get their box. And that's the impossible box, by the way. The impossible mystery box. They put a mystery box in Kurtzman Trek. It's like they're effing with us at this point, which is funny because they're effing with themselves. So Rios and Picard, Picard's finally, I have my scene. I mean, my notes are embarrassingly bad. My handwriting's bad, but right here it says no Picard, no Picard, no Picard, no Picard, no Picard. Most of the scenes don't have any Picard. And I really don't care about these other people. So Picard finally has a scene with, Rios, and they talk about the Quat Malat. And that's how they're going to approach the Borg cube. See, because they're in Romulan space, they're going past the neutral zone, and they need to be on a Federation diplomatic mission. Remember, the Federation told Picard to completely F off, but no problem. They get Rafi, who really, her acting is awful in this. She's acting all drunk, and she's got her vape, and she's all sweet talk the Federation into giving us a diplomatic order. And she does. And she does. And she says it's for Picard. And they say, okay, after not saying, okay. Whatever. Oh, by the way, the person they asked, the person in the Federation, it was a woman. Just to let you know. It was a woman. Oh, my God. And if you don't know why I'm laughing, you got to know it in context of Star Trek Discovery. Because the Federation has turned into a matriarchy. It has. I think they had one male admiral, but they killed him pretty quickly in Star Trek Discovery Season 1. And that was after he chastised Michael Burnham. And we all need to praise Michael Burnham. Praise Michael Burnham. Praise Michael Burnham. That is one hell of a block of wood right there. Okay. Raffi sweet talks the Federation. I was so nervous. I was biting my nails. I was on the edge of my seat. I never thought that she would be able to sweet talk the lady in the Federation. Oh, they insinuate they had a relationship, of course, because they need to get that in there. He gets a 24-hour pass. He gets on the Borg cube, but then we are interrupted again with a Narek and Soji scene. Thankfully, these scenes are cut in and they're really short, and he figures out that when she calls her mom, it only lasts 70 seconds every time because the AI mom puts her to sleep. Again, we know this. Narek knows this. Soji doesn't know this, but we got to prod along and watch her learn all this stuff because it's so engaging. It's about as engaging as watching paint dry, paying a parking ticket. Going to the DMV would be more enjoyable than this. The only thing worse would be watching Star Trek Picard at the DMV. That would suck. But Raffi and Rios have a little scene together because after she sweet talks the Federation, she drinks some more and she's got her whiskey and he puts her to sleep and she says she has a son. They took the time in the last week or previously on Picard. They showed that really forced scene between her and her son, and it was every time they do that, it leads you to believe that they're going to give you some resolution or continue the story within the show. And she just talks about her son for like 5 seconds before she passes out drunk. Done. AI mom talks to Soji. She tries to not fall asleep. She can't. She even tries to stab herself in the hand. She can't do it. Okay. And I'm just checking on the chat there. So they finally arrive at the Borg cube. Of course, they get the 24-hour pass, but only Picard can go alone. So he's got to leave behind his sworn sword because, a guy with a sword is going to come in really handy on a Borg cube filled with Borg and Romulans. Okay. Well, I mean, he's a Romulan too, Romulegalos. But he's told to stay on the ship. I doubt he's going to disobey that order and come just in the nick of time to save Picard and behead a few Romulans. More in a little bit. They get on the Borg cube and they beam Picard to specific coordinates. They can't dock the ship. So they decide to beam Picard into the creepiest part in the ship so he can have some PTSD, not post-traumatic Star Trek Discovery syndrome. That's post-traumatic stress syndrome. And so they can give some more Borg flashbacks, because we really need to know that Picard is still affected by being Locutus of Borg, because we didn't know that through an entire movie, a couple of episodes, a few decades have passed, but apparently it's all come back to him. Then he finally meets Hugh, and this is the one moment. Hugh and Picard meet, they embrace, and I had a moment of nostalgia. I did. I was like, this is nice. This is nice. Why couldn't we have done that? Why do we have all these dumb characters that I don't care about? Where's Riker? Where's Worf? Where's Geordi? Where's Crusher? Okay, Wesley can stay the hell off. Shut up, Wesley. Holy crap. Sorry, something blew up outside. We here in San Francisco, we like to light off fireworks like M80s and stuff on random days, because every day is 4th of July, and you thought we were un-American. That one was loud. That one shook the house. Jesus. Okay. Where was I? So Picard beamed in the middle of nowhere. He meets Hugh. I had a moment of nostalgia, but it quickly passed. Then we switch back to Soji and Narek, and they decide they need to go to they have to have a special Romulan meditation to figure out what she is dreaming about. By the way, she's dreaming. She's a synth. That's supposed to be really weird. They've never covered this in science fiction before. This is really a new idea, and I'm just stunned at the ground that they're breaking in this episode. I really am. Hope that wasn't too sarcastic for you, but that's the way it goes. So they do the Zamek meditation, where they're going to walk through this room filled with candles, and it's going to take her through her dream so she can see what she wasn't able to see in her dream, because somehow Narek has figured out that this dream is the answer. How did he figure this out? Because she dreamt. I think it was the time. It was the time in the script where it told him to figure it out. That's pretty much it. So Picard and Hugh walk around, and they see the Romulans, fixing up all the former Borg, and Picard notices, like, this is really strange for the Romulans to be doing something so good and nice. But then Hugh whispers to him that they're kind of slaves. But he is a Federation citizen, so he can leave whenever he wants, but the ex-Borgs can't. And they're reclaiming all the Borgs. That's the word I was looking for. And they slowly walk through the Borg ship. Picard explains to Hugh that he's looking for Soji. He knows who Soji is. They can't find her. She's being cloaked in some way or blocked, because she's in this Romulan meditation temple that is supposed to be off limits for most people. So we spend the rest of the episode having Narek walk her through her dream. Her dream was from the beginning of the episode. As a little girl, she's walking down a hallway. It's a thunderstorm. She looks out a window. It's still a thunderstorm. And then she walks towards her dad's, or I don't know, probably. We can't see if it's Bruce Maddox or not. You can't see his face. And it has something to do with the flowers from the first episode. And to make a long story short, she walks through her dream, and she sees herself being built, but she's symbolized as a doll. So she sees that she's fake, and then she wakes up from her dream, and Narek says, "Yeah, you're not real." And I got all the answers. And also within this dream, it turns out it was a memory, and he instructs her to look up, because he knew there was a window in this lab for some reason. I don't know. He sees 2 planets. There's a bunch of storms, and his sister is listening in to all this, and they figure out where they were building all the Sojis. And that's all they need to find out. So Narek is now going to kill Soji. He's very upset about it, but he's going to kill her with some radiation gas. She activates and punches a hole through the floor and jumps through. And in the meantime, Picard and Hugh are looking for her. They randomly run across her in the Borg cube, and they decide to escape. But all the Romulans are very slowly following them. Hugh takes them into a part of the Borg cube that the Romulans don't know about. It's a hidden part, and they have some. It's not a transporter. It's from the Sakarans, and they can walk through this thing. And it was supposed to be for the Borg Queen. It's basically a failsafe if she needs to escape. It has a range of 40,000 years. They need to go to a planet called Nepenthe, where Riker is going to be. So they're being pursued. They call back to the Rocinante. I don't know what the name of the ship is, but I'm going to call it the Rocinante. They said, we're going to rendezvous with you there. And then they figure out that Elrond had left. Now, how he just left and beamed off the ship when he probably doesn't even know what that is, he did. How he knew the coordinates of where Picard was, I don't know. We don't need to answer these questions. He just showed up right on time because right when the Romulans were coming in on Soji and Picard, he comes in and chops all their heads off. And he stays behind to protect Picard inexplicably. I don't know. He doesn't need to stay behind. They escaped. This was the dumbest scene. So they made you believe that Elrond was staying there to fight off all these Romulans that were coming, but Picard had already walked through the little barrier and escaped, and Hugh was shutting it down, so they couldn't have followed him. I don't know why he stayed, but he stayed. Oh, because the script told him to stay. It was just as dumb as the end of Star Trek Discovery last season, where they had to take the Discovery through a wormhole in time to get it away from the artificial intelligence, which wasn't quite an artificial intelligence, but it had the awareness to know it wanted to be an artificial intelligence. Well, they neutralized that artificial intelligence, and they still went through the little time wormhole, even though they didn't need to. It's that dumb. But they did it. And Romulegalos is now left behind on the Borg cube. The Rocinante is leaving to the planet Nepenthe, whatever it's called, and Soji and Picard escape. What's going to happen to Hugh? I don't know. He had a little iPad. He was doing some stuff. He helped them escape. He didn't say very much, and they took off. And while Soji was walking through this little meditation thing, they were like throwing out random Romulan. Apparently, you had to go through the Zalmok, and then the Yutmok, and then the Qualmwath, and then that takes you to the Rocklan. Just so you know. So, that's basically the episode. It was really boring. And all that happened was Picard arrived at Borg Cube, met Soji, and they left. That's all you need to know about and then Soji found out that she's not real. Boom. Everything else was forced dialogue, some making out, some forced drama scenes, really poor attempts at comedy. The levity is the worst. It's so bad. The best sign of a good writer is you can be funny sometimes. You don't have to be funny all the time, but you have to have that gift of humor, which is the hardest thing to be, especially if you're kind of a stiff and a hack, which I'm sorry to say are the people involved in this show. So we will get to you quickly. I'm sorry, that was boring. And I think people have just dipped out on the show. I don't know if anybody even cares anymore. I'm going to keep doing this, though. I am sticking through till the end. Kaz Walker for $5 Canadian. They've managed to completely nerf Picard. I wasn't sure they could do any more damage to the character, but I was wrong. Worst episode. I don't know if it was as bad as last week, Kaz, but it was bad. So Picard was scared most of the episode, and the one time he was chastised, it was by Raffi, of course, when she was talking to her Federation friend to get the clearance to go on the Borg cube, and she said, "Hey, it's for a diplomatic mission, and it's for Picard." And they both have a little laugh about Picard and say, "Well, this guy's still on the brochure, and he's got a massive ego," and it's just basically the whole thing that they're slowly doing is deconstructing the entire Federation. They're making the Federation look like an aloof, elitist organization that wasn't really out for the betterment of mankind. They were out for themselves, if you were part of the Federation. And they forgot about all the dregs in the galaxy, and they're responsible for everything, but they have marginalized people. And they have forgotten about the marginalized people. The Federation is the symbol, is how certain people, mostly rich people in Hollywood, by the way, see our society and our government right now, which is really funny. As much as Star Trek is the utopian ideal, it is the quintessential byproduct of capitalism. That's what it is. I know about its ideals and I know about its politics, but it's been around for decades because they sold a lot of toys, they sold a lot of Blu-rays, they sold a lot of stuff, they sold a lot of advertising, capitalism. So there you go. And remember what the Borg were supposed to be a symbol of, by the way. Okay. Tyrone Beard. Thank you, Kaz, for the Canadian $5. And how's it going, eh? Tyrone Beard for Australian $5. Gary, I listened to your reviews before I watched the episodes here in Oz. How bad is it? Will I need a vomit bag or will I need 7 of 9 for euthanize me too? Hashtag euthanize me too. No, you're going to need a strong cup of coffee. And if you're a drinker, I don't know, what's good booze to put in coffee? I'm sorry. I quit drinking before I got like really fancy with it. I quit drinking when I was 21. So whatever good booze you put in coffee, you might want to do that. Don't drive after it. Be responsible, Tyrone. I want you to be here. You're important. The world needs you. Saldrin TJ for $5. Thank you, Gary, for watching these. I have no enthusiasm for them. Hope you are having a great evening. What a nice thing to say. Saldrin, I hope you are having a great evening, and I thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. I am doing great. It makes me feel better to talk to you guys about this. We're 6 episodes in. This show isn't getting better. It's done. It passed the point of no return last episode, and bar a miracle, and all of a sudden Kurtzman and Shaban figure out how to write TV. No, this episode wasn't written by either of them. It was written by, I wrote it down somewhere. There are my notes for last week. Torture. Yay. This one was, there's my Doctor Who notes. It was written by one person. Now I can't find the name. It's not that important. I spent all that time looking for it, and it's not that important. But okay, I'll figure it out. Reaverman for £2. I like Spoo. Do you? Spoo. I don't know what Spoo is, Reaverman. I don't know what Spoo is. I would say I like it if you like it, but I don't know what it is. I don't want to say I like something. I don't know what it is, but thank you for the £2. Tyrone Beard for Australian $2. Will Raffi mention JL when she does her step 4? Yes, she will have to mention JL. Yeah, because, well, for one, she has some serious resentments, but that's when she gets to that area, okay? I mean, does she? Yeah, I think she did Picard wrong in a lot of ways, but yeah, she's going to have to mention JL. But she has a lot of resentments towards the Federation and towards Picard that aren't their fault. Now, I don't know if Hollywood even understands the 12 steps and how responsibility works. But even if somebody completely wrongs you, you have to look within and you have to forgive that person and you can't expect forgiveness or even an I'm sorry from somebody else. You can't move on from that. The resentment is, of course, we all know what resentment is. It's like taking poison and expecting somebody else to get sick. Catherine Greer for $2. Hi, Gary. Hi. How's it going? Welcome. Mr. Fish for Australian $10. 7:38 p.m. here in Australia. There you go. See, I can always count on my Aussies to show up in the middle of the night. God bless the Aussies. This world would be terrible without you. By the way, I'm going to call you all Bruce to avoid confusion. Alpha Prime for £5. F you, JL. Everyone else sees it. Why not me? Makes no sense. But hey, yes, Rafi, by the way, figures out everything. Amidst all her vaping and drinking, she figures out everything. There was a scene where she's drinking coffee and she figures out, like what does the Tal Shiar, she all of a sudden asks this question. They've gone all the way out there. They're going to a Borg cube filled with Tal Shiar. And she goes, what does Tal Shiar want with a simple synth alive? Well, they've known she's alive. She thought she was going to be dead, but she was still alive, and she figures it out. They want to find out where it came from. Nobody else can figure that out, but Raffi did. Their exposition dumps, this whole episode was exposition dumps, are understandable for new fans, but they keep coming from the wrong people every time, says Paul Turner for $5. Yep. And, Paul, I don't know if you watched Star Trek Discovery, but I'm going to say this again. For those of you who didn't watch Star Trek Discovery, you're discovering this type of writing for the first time. It's very unique in its badness. People are not this bad. I'd say the closest thing is watching The Rise of Skywalker or The Fall of Skywalker. Vince Hickey for Australian $7.99. Can Doomcock and yourself arrange a live stream chat with Manu, I can't pronounce his last name, to discuss Star Trek? Yeah. Vince, absolutely. If he'll talk to us, I would be happy to talk to him. If you guys want to listen to something like that, that sounds good to me. Thank you, Vince. Love your avatar, by the way. Crimson Taint sends me a cuppa. Thank you. It's red. Is it blood, Crimson? I mean, your name is Crimson Taint, so Crimson Taint. Canadian 549, thank you very much. Matt Deckard for $1.99. How is this a program that makes it to the air? Well, technically it doesn't. It's behind a paywall, Matt, but it makes it to the air in other places. How did this get greenlit? How did Alex Kurtzman talk the powers that be at CBS into doing this? They're dumb bankers. They think they don't see a difference between Star Trek and Hawaii Five-0. It's a TV show. So there's some laser beams and spaceships, but it's a TV show. What's the difference? That's how something like this gets made. Alex Kurtzman and Jar Jar Abrams are extremely good at talking people in Hollywood out of their money. Dumb people. People who just want to be attached to entertainment, want their names in the credits, or can brag to their friends that I was an investor in Star Trek. Well, I wouldn't brag about this. I'd be embarrassed that you didn't take the time to do your homework and figure out that you were wasting your money. Adam Wolford for $2. Hey, Gary, did you check out Berserk yet? I have not checked out Berserk yet, but I will. On your recommendation. It sounds cool. James, thank you for the $2, Adam. James Hamblin for £5. Michael Pillar's book talks about what makes good Trek. The writers were better when constrained by Gene's rules. It forced them to think creatively. Absolutely. I am a firm believer in limiting budget and making parameters, especially when you're playing in somebody else's playground that doesn't belong to you. You are just a steward, or you're a repurposer. And I love the fact that the head of the BBC used the word repurposer in an article, in an interview. I'm going to do a video on that. I am so happy about it. They come out and admitted that they're repurposers. Self-confessed cynic for Australian $2. Don't care about Trek, but love your work. Well, I love you too. Thank you very much. And there's no reason to care about this Trek. Don't watch this Trek. But if you want to care about it someday, watch the old stuff. It's great. It's brilliant. There's a reason it was around for decades. Now, we have some people constantly comparing this Trek to older Trek, like they did this in that older Trek, and they did that in older Trek. Stop what you're doing. You're comparing garbage crap to a fine meal, a 5-star meal. This Trek will not be remembered in 5 years, much less 50. And that's all you have to remember is legacy. Will people remember this, or is this just disposable drivel to get people to sign up for a streaming service that's going to get absorbed into another streaming service? Ryan Cropper for £5. Gary, thank you for watching so I don't have to. You are welcome. Got as far as episode 4. Now I just follow your reviews. Yeah, it seems like a lot of people jumped out at 4, and that's a good thing because, I mean, you could see the interest has dropped, and all the indicators, we don't know the numbers. It's behind a paywall, but if you go watch, I don't know, the Ready Room reviews, you've noticed the review numbers have gone down. If you look at the clips, the views on YouTube have gone down. If you look at the Google Trends chart, gone down. Not Picard for £5. Do you think Bright Insights exciting news is he's found Picard's balls? Oh my God. Why is my phone talking to me? I didn't say anything to you. Stop talking to me. It's creepy. Not Picard. You know what's funny? Not Picard is I just watched that video. I just watched that freaking video. That's season 2. We're going to look for Picard's balls in season 2. And that is going to wrap tonight. I am sorry I was late. I need to go to bed. I am very, very tired, and I have to work on my Anas Abdeen video because I have a little present for the folks at CBS Star Trek, especially for Kurtzman, and especially for the person. Listen, this is all my opinion. Justice for Anas. I think somebody who worked on Star Trek Discovery stole from that man. I can't prove it, but I can certainly think it, and I have some examples. So I'm making a short little video because there's a lot of new subscribers here in the channel, and you don't know that there was a lawsuit, a plagiarism lawsuit, over Star Trek Picard and a giant blue tardigrade that travels instantaneously in time and space. And apparently, every time I bring it up, it really pisses off people at CBS. So I'm really happy about that, and I'm going to continue to do it. It also helps independent creators fight for their rights. Anas Abdeen is a Kuwaiti citizen. My guess is, well, we could just steal something off of Steam from a guy who's not even an American citizen. And isn't the whole theme about Picard immigration and respecting people and not being xenophobic? And yeah, it's almost like they don't practice what they preach. CBS All Access offered me another free month after I burnt the first week free to watch the first 3 episodes of Picard. I didn't accept. Thanks, Gary, for helping me make the call. Paul Turner, I am happy to help you save money. Thank you for the $10. That will keep me going so I can make more Anas Abdeen videos and piss off Star Trek fans. And hopefully, we'll cover... oh, by the way, my God, I am sorry. Before we go, Catherine Greer for $2 says, night, Gary. Good night. This episode was not brought to you by The Orville. The Orville is written and stars Seth MacFarlane. It's a fantastic science fiction show, one you can watch with the whole family, one that does have messages that are put into well-crafted scripts that will make you laugh, make you cry. They are moving, and the action is unbelievable. Identity Part 1 and 2 is some of the best science fiction I've seen on television. Watch The Orville on Hulu. They are not sponsoring this in any way, shape, or form. I am shilling for absolute free. Also, watch The Expanse. The Expanse is available on Amazon Prime. And apparently, according to some rumors, Amazon doesn't want to be in the Star Trek business anymore. Now, I can't prove that, but there you go. But they want to be in the Expanse business. And those are 2 great shows that you can watch instead of this one. Take your money that you would waste on CBS All Access and go ahead and sign up for Hulu. For 2 seasons are available. You can burn through them. You can sign up for a month, but, stay there if you want to. Season 3 is coming. Vince Hickey for Australian $2.99. You missed my second super chat. Vince, I will get to it right now. I'm sorry. If I do miss any, by the way, I will make it up in a future live stream. I do have to do a super chat score up. I heard that Manu also had some weird experience that I remember him talking about with Jimmy Church a few years ago that might be worth discussing as well. Thank you, Vince Hickey, for $14.99. Yes, we'll bring it up. We will bring it up with him if we get him on. I have to do my homework on that one, though. But I thank you for the suggestion, Vince. I thank you for your continued support. And again, hail the Inquisition. It's a show I do with Doomcock, and he's got that in his avatar, and that makes me so proud. All right, I'm going to bug out everybody. Have a great night. Please like, share, and subscribe. Don't waste your time with Star Trek Picard. Watch The Orville. Watch The Expanse. And not all who wander are lost.